Welcome to the Raising Confident Girls podcast, your guide to raising strong, confident daughters. I'm Melissa Jones, the founder of Girls Positivity Club and a teacher for over 20 years. In a world where girls often feel overwhelmed, anxious, and confused, this podcast is your go-to space. As caregivers, we navigate challenges together. I founded Girls Positivity Club to provide a place where you belong and get the tools to face today's hurdles. Consider this your regular check-in with a trusted friend, offering insights and practical tips for meaningful conversations. I'm here to help you feel confident on this journey of raising a generation of empowered girls. Let's dive in and raise those confident girls together. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Raising Confident Girls. I'm Melissa Jones, the founder of Girls Positivity Club, and I'm so glad you're here today. Whether you've been here one time or lots of times, welcome. I'm so grateful for you. And I want to start with a moment that might feel familiar today. So recently, a sweet fourth grade girl came up to me and told me that she didn't raise her hand because she was worried about everyone thinking that she was weird. If she said a weird answer, if she just said the wrong answer, if it came out weird. And her mom said later that she used to be so bubbly at home, but now she second guesses everything. And I've heard that before. Like, there can be a point where your daughter starts caring, or the girls in your life start caring more and more about what people think and how they're perceived, especially by their peers. And so if you ever have watched your daughter or a girl in your life hold herself back because she's worried about what other people think, believe me when I tell you, you are not alone. This isn't about being shy. It's not about not knowing what to say. It's about fitting in over being seen. And today we're going to talk about how to support the girls in your life through that in a way that doesn't pressure her to be someone she's not, but instead helps her feel grounded in who she already is. Because our daughters and the girls in our life don't need to be louder. They just need to feel safer being themselves. And I want you to think about this reframe of why girls shrink. So girls don't pull back because they lack confidence. They pull back because they care about belonging. They are learning who they are. They don't want to be judged or misunderstood, or they're trying to stay emotionally safe. And honestly, that's not a weakness, that's awareness. Our job isn't to push them into being bold, it's to help them feel strong enough to try in their own way. And so today I'm going to share with you some tools that I think can help you support the girls in your life on doing just that, in feeling good about who they are and helping her work through finding her own voice without worrying as much about what other people think. And I think it's a myth to say, or it's just not a true statement to say that they're never going to care about what anyone thinks, because that's human nature, right? Especially if you have a girl who wants to be liked. And let's face it, like, most people want to feel liked by at least some people, and they want to feel like they belong somewhere. And that's really the whole reason that we do Girls Positivity Club, is because we want girls to know that they belong simply for being themselves. And so before we get into the tools, I just want to remind you that the biggest compliment would be to send this episode to someone who you think it would help, or you think fits with wanting to know more about how to help girls in this area. And also, if you are interested in starting a club in your community, or just connecting us with your daughter or the girls in your life in your community's school, then we would love to hear from you at girlspositivityclub@gmail.com. And just drop me a line, and I would love to start talking about getting a club in your specific area. And because the goal of Girls Positivity Club is to have as many locations as possible so that we can help impact as many communities and as many girls as possible too. So the first tool is identity anchors. So these help her remember who she is. So when she says, like in the example of the girl that I shared, I don't want to sound weird, or what if they don't like me? Instead of reassuring her quickly, which of course we all want to do, help her anchor inward first. So say, how do you see yourself in this moment? Then guide her by saying, what do you like about the way you think? Or what makes you a kind friend? Or what's something unique about you that you love? Because this teaches her this life-changing truth that belonging starts inside, not outside. And yes, of course, we want them to have outside places, like outside of themselves, outside places to belong. But what we really want to teach them is to feel good about who they are and to know that they belong on the inside first. And so how this can sound at different ages is like ages 6 to 9. Drawing is always such a powerful tool. And so you can say, draw 3 things that make you you. That's very simple, it's low risk, and it's very easy to do. And I will always say that any kind of creative expression is always a good, safe option when your daughter's having trouble expressing it, or just as a different way, even if she's not having trouble expressing it, like it's just another outlet and another way to describe it. And it can come out in ways that you don't even expect. And it can offer really good communication and good conversation starters, because you can say, tell me what this means, or tell me why you picked that. And so then at 10 to 13, if your friend, you can say something like, if your friend felt this way, what would you say about her? Or what would you say to her? So either one. If your friend felt this way, what would you say about her? So it's giving them that look where they can take a different perspective. And at ages 10 to 13, they can do that, where they can start thinking like, oh, if I were in her shoes, if she was feeling this way, what would I say to her, her being a friend? And that's a really great way for them to kind of get outside of their own thoughts and think about that. And then you can say, that's what I want you to do for you. And then as they're getting older into that more teenage area of 14 to 18, you could say, who are you when you aren't comparing yourself to anyone else? So I think especially in that teenage age is really where, especially with social media and just with human nature, it's really, really common for them to start comparing themselves in different areas, in physical looks and abilities, in academics and achievements, and like where they're going in life, how clear they are about where they're going, what friend group they belong to. So it's really easy to do that. And I know for me, that was one thing that was such a huge battle in that internal chaos of my life, was just having that comparison constantly of like, I want to belong, in this certain group, or I want to look like her. Why don't I? And why don't I fit here? And so always kind of comparing myself to them. And then, that's something that you can start with as far as like asking her those questions and just reinforcing that it's really important how they view themselves too. And also it's that just being your own encourager, being your own cheerleader, even when it feels hard, just getting used to thinking in that way as well. And then the second tool is to use low risk voice moments, which means they're practicing quiet confidence. So here's what this can look like. Big jumps can feel really scary. So if you're like, oh, just raise your hand 2 or 3 times in class, that can feel like a scary jump if you have a girl who already is really self-conscious about talking in front of the group or something like that. But you can encourage her to do micro brave moments throughout the day, because they build confidence like nothing else. And once they do all of these micro brave moments, then they'll start building on each other, and then she'll start seeing that she can do it. And then she'll want to start doing maybe bigger moves of bravery. So one thing you can ask her in this case is, what is one tiny brave thing that you can try this week? So this could be saying hi first to someone, not waiting for them to say hi to you. This could be asking a question. For a lot of girls, this could be really scary, especially if they're asking it in front of the class. Now, this might also be just asking for help or asking a question even if they're not sure if anyone else has the question. But it can be in a more private way where it's like asking the teacher instead of in front of the whole class, if that feels more micro to them. It could also be making one small comment in class. And I have asked girls about this a lot, and most of them will only say something if they know they're correct or if they know it's an appropriate comment in some way, like that they won't be seen as wrong or weird. And so just making a comment in class about something that's like a discussion topic, or if it's commenting on something about a book that they're reading, something like that. Could be even in a book club. Like a lot of times they're in smaller book clubs or book partnerships, if they're younger, especially. It could also be telling a friend that you like their idea. So those can be little micro brave moments. And so you can help her identify what are those for you, like what would be tiny steps. Because to us, it may feel like that, oh, just raise your hand a couple times in each subject. And that might feel huge if they're not used to raising their hand at all. So it's giving them these little things that they can do along the way that build their confidence, micro bravery moments. And so by doing this, you're showing her that brave doesn't have to be big to be real. So I think sometimes people think of bravery as like you're doing this big act, but really it's these little moments of bravery that you're taking consistently. So it might be that you say hi to someone, and it doesn't matter if they say hi back or not. You know that you did the thing, you said hi. Or it might be asking the first question or whatever it would be. So these are things that help build that bigger bravery too, and help her build that bravery muscle. And so here's some examples of 6 to 9. Raise your hand once this week. So this would be if you have a girl who's terrified to raise her hand in class. This wouldn't be an outgoing girl who raises her hand all the time. Anyway, this is for someone who is kind of paralyzed by how other people perceive her when she raises her hand. And this is especially common as they start getting older. Normally in that younger age, they're not as self-conscious about it. But once they start getting into 8, 9, 10 and up is when they start to get a little bit more aware of how other people perceive them when they raise their hand in class. And I would see this firsthand when I was a teacher. And so even if it's just to say that they forgot what they were going to say, like that happens all the time, they'll have their hand raised and they're like, oh, I forgot what I was going to say. Even just the act of raising their hand in class and attempting to answer something or attempting to answer a question. Now, obviously, we don't want them to say they forgot every time, but even just the act of raising their hand is good for them to do. And so if once a week sounds like it's too easy for them, they're like, oh yeah, I can do that. Then maybe it's once a day, or maybe it's once every couple days. So it's just knowing your daughter and the girls in her life and what would feel like a micro brave moment. And then at ages 10 to 13, it's asking a friend to sit together at recess once this week, or at lunch, or to be a partner. So it's taking the initiative to ask someone else, even if you're not positive about the outcome. So that would be that 10 to 13 age. And then as they get older, 14 to 18, you could say, share one thought in class, or tell a friend your true opinion about something, because sometimes they can kind of mask how they really feel about something because they don't know how their peers will react to it. And so even if they feel safe in a friend group, I've heard this lots of times, if everybody in the friend group believes this one thing, it feels a little bit scary to say that you actually don't. And also that it's okay if you have different opinions than your friend. You don't have to have the exact same opinion about every topic, every issue ever to be great friends. Like you can agree on some things and you can have different opinions about other things, and that's okay. And so what they're doing is building reps of real world courage. That's what these micro brave moments are for. And then tool 3 is to choose your audience. Who gets a front row seat? And I love this because it's really coming down to who really matters. Whose opinion really matters? Who do I really care about what they think? And so not everyone's opinion deserves power. And I would say this was the most crippling thing for me because I wanted everybody to like me. I still struggle with it sometimes where it's like, I wonder why they didn't, want to do this or that. And it's like, no, that's okay. Not everyone deserves power. So if someone on the internet makes a negative comment, do they deserve the power? No. Not everyone. So what you're teaching her is that not everyone gets a front row seat in your life. Make 2 lists with your daughter. The front row people equal the safe voices. And these can be people who support her, people who make her feel seen. This could be people she feels like herself around. Those are her front row people. And then the back row people are background noise people. So these are kids who judge quickly. These are people who tease or exclude. These are anyone who makes her shrink or feel like she should shrink, and she just doesn't feel good around them. So another way to think of it too is the front row people are energy givers, and then the back row people are energy takers. And so just having her make that list of people with you is really important. So you can say something like, you don't need everyone to like you. And believe me, if your daughter struggles with this, that was so hard for me. And I still work on this all the time, that if not everybody likes you, it doesn't mean necessarily that you've done anything wrong. It's that some people respond better to certain types of personalities, or, it's just like if you think of a menu at a restaurant, like you're not probably going to like every single thing on the menu. It doesn't mean that that's not a great dish, but it's just not what you like. And so it's like that when you get to know people as well. It's like they're just not your cup of tea. Doesn't mean they're a bad person. Doesn't mean they've done anything bad or wrong. Sometimes it does, but not always. But it's okay for you to not be liked by everybody. And it doesn't mean that they've done anything wrong. And so just saying something like, you just deserve to be known by the right people. And that confidence is rooted in that discernment, not in performance, not in popularity and things like that. And so that is one way that you can help her choose her audience and choose the types of people that deserve her energy and whose opinion really matters in her life. And then tool 4 is that future self-confidence. So stepping into her becoming. So you could ask her, like, if there was a future version of you who already felt confident, what would she do right now? So it's tapping into like that higher self, that future self, and then picking the smallest version. So would she make eye contact? Would she smile first? Would she say one sentence? Would she sit confidently? So what you're doing is you're teaching her a lifelong skill, which is I can become who I'm growing into one tiny step at a time. So for the younger girls, this could sound like, what would your superhero self do? Now, aside from fly, have super hearing, do all these other things, but like, what would her realistic superhero self do besides superhero powers? So what would she look like? What would she act like? So look like, not like in physical looks necessarily, but just like, how would she stand? How would she talk? Who would she be friends with? Things like that. And then as they're getting older, you could say, what choice would your future self be proud of? So would your future self be proud of you for raising your hand? Or would your future self be happy that you stayed quiet? Would your future self be happy that you did this activity outside of school with these people? Or would your future self say, that's not a good idea? So it's always kind of framing it in their higher self, which is their future self, their older self, you could say, their older self who they're proud of, and then just helping them think through those types of ways of thinking, which is going to help them feel like they don't have to be fearless. They just have to pick a decision that's going to be who they are becoming and who they want to be as a person. And also that it's okay if they make mistakes. And it's also okay if they're that person one day and they kind of backslide another day. And then, the most important thing is that they keep taking steps forward, even if there are times when they make a mistake or they are too afraid to do it that day or they feel too shy, because the whole thing of this is helping her find her voice and finding her courage and confidence in who she is. And these tools are different ways to do that. And so even if you just try one of these with your daughter or the girls in your life, I think they're a really tactful and really easy way to try it out and see what starts to have impact on how she views herself and her confidence and who she is, and not letting other people's opinions holding her back. So your daughter doesn't have to feel fearless all the time. I think that's something that is such a myth, is that people who are brave or people are fearless because they don't ever get afraid, and that's just not true. So she needs you to remind her that fear doesn't mean that she can't move. It just means she cares. She doesn't need to be loud. She just needs to feel like her voice matters. And you doing this and one of these things to help her through that and just talking with her about that is going to help her figure all of that out, because even just trying one of these things shows you that you're walking beside her in this, and that everybody's figuring themselves out. Even as you're getting older, you're always changing and evolving and becoming someone different in the best way. And there are going to be times where you're like, okay, that version of myself wasn't my best. I'm going to try this. And you're always growing and improving and figuring out who you want to be. And so if this episode supported you today, please share it with another parent who wants to raise a confident girl, or someone that you know who's also raising girls who want to feel safe being exactly who they are. You're doing an amazing job, and she's learning because she has you in her life. And until next time, keep showing her that her voice matters and that she doesn't have to listen to all the other voices. Remember who is in her front row, and that's you. And remind her that she is in yours too. So I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you next week. Thanks for joining another empowering episode of the Raising Confident Girls podcast. Share today's insights with caregivers and friends, building beautiful relationships with strong girls. Hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. We're not just a podcast, we're a community. Follow Girls Positivity Club on social media for more empowering content on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. This podcast empowers you, supporting incredible girls. Let's create strong, beautiful relationships with the girls in our lives. I appreciate you listening today. Stay confident, stay connected. Until next time, keep raising those confident girls. You've got this.